we are going to examine something that is called the Florida model of elections. Since this issue and this topic came to prominence after what was a pretty slow vote counting process for the 2024 general election, there's been a lot of terminology thrown around as to, oh, this is Florida style, that's Florida style, and to some extent it's become a shorthand for good thing that we like in elections. But in fact, the Florida model consists of 4 components which enhance both the speed of tabulation and the security of the elections process at the same time. And those 4 components are as follows. An early voter ID number, in other words, some form of real voter ID that can be written on the ballots to substitute in for the signature verification process, which is very time-intensive and inaccurate. And this also, of course, speeds up tabulation. The second component is cutting off what we call late earlies. A late early is a ballot that a voter walks in to the polling place on election day, but that they received as a mail-in ballot. So basically, it's for the procrastinators out there. I procrastinate so much I vote in person on election day, but people who procrastinate almost as much as I do vote by late early. The problem with late earlies is that they're the last to go in the hopper for the signature verification process, and we tend to get quite a lot of them in Arizona. And so this really delays the results. The third item that consists of the Florida-style system is a system of address verification every cycle for those who are male voters. Usually, and I think we'll hear from Recorder Heap about this, but we've both experienced that when we walk into a room of voters and ask how many of you received a ballot in the mail, for someone who doesn't live at your address, the number is always a significant portion of the crowd. And then the final thing that Florida does that Arizona does not is it bans foreign funding of elections. I think that one is pretty self-explanatory. Transitioning Arizona's system of elections into a Florida-style system is something that is full of promise. In Florida, voters have a high degree of satisfaction in their elections processes and procedures. In fact, whenever I go to Florida, they won't shut up about it. They love to tell us how their elections are great and why can't Arizona just do what they're doing. So we decided to say, yes,